No.
I see a lot of women that are, you know, a little like late 30s and stuff that never settled down, kind of got so far into hookup culture and then just,
Yikes.
oh crap, like,
That's
did I miss my
millennials.
shot? Yeah.
Yikes. They got into hookup culture. Yikes.
Man, millennials. They're in for a world of hurt. Yeah. I think especially millennial women.
Yeah.
Because there was a couple stories that I was reading a while ago. This one got me in a lot of trouble. 30-year-old career women are having trouble finding men.
I remember.
Yeah.
I remember the
It was
trouble
so
you
much
got
fun.
into. Yeah.
It was trouble. I do air quotes because I was laughing the whole time. It was
I know.
awesome. I'm like, look at all these tweets. It was
They were
hilarious. The
so
feminists are so mad. And I'm like, what are you mad at me for? This is the story. This is the day. I didn't make it up. And like, I'm pretty tepid. I'm not like trying to be mean. But yeah, these 30-year-old women are realizing.
Well, they take facts.
Yeah, women need to be submissive and not have any sort of financial power for themselves. And that's the only way that they can get a partner that is better off than they are. Obviously, it's their fucking fault that now that the dynamic is shifting from a patriarchal one or one where women have some form of material power and can achieve some level of material equality, well, then it's going to be a lot harder for them to find partners. And that's, of course, not a systemic problem, but rather the fault of the women themselves for even going out and getting a job and pursuing a career. Ha ha! Also, Tim Pool is hilarious for being a 34-year-old who's also single and crying about how he can't fucking find, relationships or whatever. No wonder people call you sexist. Yeah, I'm sexist as fuck, dude, of course. Everything I said wasn't sarcastic. Everything I said was being serious. Here's the problem. People like Tim Pool unironically believe what I just said sarcastically. Okay? The issue is, and this is anecdotal as fuck, but the issue is, from what I see, from my personal relationships with my girlfriends that are lawyers, and now because I'm old, so I have like older female friends who have also grown alongside me who are now fucking professional career women. And I see the problems that they have. For a lot of them, it's the fact that, and again, this is purely anecdotal. I'm not going to sit around and act like there is legitimate empirical evidence to anything I'm saying, unlike Tim Pool, who likes to read like fucking pseudoscience and act like it's actually scientific thought or whatever. But the purely empirical, the purely anecdotal evidence I have around this subject matter is that I think especially professional women have a harder time because men don't like it. Like, men get intimidated and insecure by, God, it feels so lame to say it, but I legitimately think that men get intimidated and insecure about women that have their own money and about women that have their own level of power. And in a lot of places like LA, for example, where a lot of dudes are broke and don't have jobs because they want to be actors and stuff and like only maybe working in the service industry or something like that, they get extra intimidated when their female partners have more money than they do and are further along in their career trajectory than they are. So that is like the opposite of the patriarchal dynamic. That it's the opposite of the patriarchal dynamic that most people have been conditioned into believing is the norm. So then they feel extra insecure about it. I think that's where a lot of this comes from. Yeah. Anecdote, but that's what I believe. But the alternative is so silly. Like, what's the alternative? The cat's out of the bag. Like, there's ladies out here making money. What's the alternative? You want to fucking put the cat back in the bag? You want to be like, no. Just, if you want a healthy relationship, you got to force yourself into a subjugated circumstance. You need to go back to the 50s mentality of like living in the fucking living in the kitchen and like, just your primary function being one to breed. That's the only way you can be happy. Sorry, like that's such a fucking silly alternative.
As endorsements. You
Right,
can't
of course.
say a fact without
yeah.
being an endorsement.
It's certainly coming from my opinion that I read this.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, they're starting to have a rude awakening.
Uh-huh.
That they're 30
Yep.
and 30-year-old men are going for 20-year-olds.
Yep.
But like that was always the case, you know?
Yeah, they always like younger women and
The other problem, of course, is that if you're... Why is TYT suddenly re-releasing so many of your old segments? I don't know. Because they own them. And they want to fucking ride along that clout wave. Do you think Tim Pool even wears a beanie in his house when he's by himself? 100%. There's also another problem there, like, whether we like to admit it or not, like, I mean, even if women want to have children, it does get more difficult for them to have children when they're fucking working in the same crushing, oppressive workforce that we are all a part of. That is a reality. Even if you want to fucking have a child, and as of now, outside of the extreme, like, edge cases, it's women for the most part that carry pregnancies to term and carry the baby. They are the ones who have to tote it, right? I guess some trans men, but you know, I'm just being as politically correct as possible and covering all the bases, but it's mostly women. And that, unfortunately, is the reality. And we don't have any sort of protection for that. So even if you do want to have a child as a lady, it's difficult because then your career opportunities are squashed in its entirety. Like you get shut out of the same opportunities of advancement. As a matter of fact, that's probably something that other men think about, or even women think about when they're hiring women. Oh, she might have a baby at some point. She's 25 years old. You know, we might have her off work for a fucking year. You know? And that's a huge deal. So that's a big problem as well. Women can have it all, just not all at the same time. Yes, some trans men can have babies. Yeah, I know. That's why I said it. My dick is hard, but capitalism is harder, Sag. Oh, good one. What the fuck was that, dude? Oh, Jesus.
younger women like older men.
Yeah, there was a video by these two comedians, and it was like they're singing, and it's two women.
Yep.
And they're singing about like being 29 and how like everything's great and life is good. And then she's like, and now I'm turning 30. And then she just starts screaming, everyone's gone. What's happening? Where are all the men? Yeah, that's going to happen.
Yes.
So what's the...
This is some real incel shit, dude. Sorry, but if you fucking watch this and you go, yeah, Tim Pool is right. Yeah. Like you're literally a fucking weirdo incel, dude. Oh, Jesus. You're a Tim cell.
future then? Are we going to sit in like pods and go to virtual reality and just never date and make up fake people to hook up with on like The Sims?
I think we're in for a divided nation, and I don't know if it's going to be a civil war or if it's going to be a secession. Like I can't tell you, but
Really?
there are two
Over
very
dating?
different in general. I mean, this goes into the dating.
Right.
There are just two very different types of people in this
Yeah.
world. There are, right now in America, there are the people who pour milk on themselves at Bernie Sanders rallies.
Fake blood.
Yeah. And then there's the people who just want to settle down, make a life, stay home with her kids. And
But I think that's most.
That's the two genders. Actually, the people who pour milk on themselves at Bernie Sanders rallies, or the people that are normal and well-adjusted and just want to have a normal life. This seems like a good point. Yeah, it is a big problem, especially in the dating marketplace. I'm always on like fucking Raya and dating apps. I'm trying to find women to date, and they're constantly pouring milk on themselves. I'm like, fuck, not this again. All I want is a well-adjusted normie. But all these girls be pouring milk on them titties, dude. This is crazy. Big problem. All I want is them to pour titties on pour milk on me. Oh, Jesus Christ. I want to be like motherfucking Homelander, dude. Titty milk. Pour titties on me. What the fuck am I saying? Oh, Jesus Christ, dude. That's the first thing I ask when I meet a girl. So this is how the right thinks of radical lefties. I feel like these political commentators have an extremely skewed view of how much politics affects people's lives. So politics affects every facet of your life. It certainly does. But the hilarity is, like, most political commentators, and I probably fall into this trap a lot too, really focus on all the wrong ways in which they think politics affects your life. Okay? Like, when you think about America's rising obesity rate, or when you think about America's rising suicide rate on every fucking demographic across the board, politics has a big part of that. Politics is absolutely a big part of that. It's policy that is changing your lives and making it worse overall and making you more fucking depressed. But it's not the divided politics of this country that is forcing you to fucking overeat or I don't know, pushing you to the brink of suicide. Only if you are an idiotic political commentator on the internet would you ever believe that, okay? Like, you're just so far up your own fucking asshole that you think that like the politics of it all, it's not the policies that are causing despair, but the conversation around politics is actually causing people to fucking get depressed and sad, as though we've never been so fucking divided before. You know?
People.
Yeah, a lot of people are like that.
You know what actually?
There's like radical and then there's moderate.
No, I actually think I started thinking this.
Mm-hmm.
The problems we're talking about are city problems. They're not rural problems.
So rural people,
like if you live,
it's funny. It's famous. Rural cities are famous for not having obesity or suicide or depression. Like, yeah, it's the city slickers that have these. Just move forehead.
Outside of a big city, if you're in a rural area
mm-hmm.
and you don't go to one of these big universities or state universities and you work a trade,
yep.
You've got your community.
That's true.
Your community is going to keep doing its thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, economics could play a big role in that because a lot of these towns are falling apart.
Yeah.
But if with Trump's bolstering of the economy, then the cities are the ones in trouble, mm-hmm. where these weird dating things are happening and the women are having cats. You know?
Like, listen, dude. People are getting increasingly more fucked up. And is there a higher rate of depression in cities than rural places? Of course. Okay, there's a bunch of different factors that contribute to that, but it's up for everyone across the board. Now, the problem is, like, none of this has anything to do with, like, dating and feminism. What the fuck is this? Like, how do you just look at a dial and you go feminism? Like, I feel like Tim Pool watched a PragerU video where, like, you know how they have those fake charts and one chart just says feminism going up, and then there's another chart right next to it where it says depression going up, and he's like, oh, these two things, this is the facts. Well, thank you, PragerU, for teaching me what to do here, teaching me the devastating impact feminism has had on dating life.
You know, they're buying a bunch of cats and they're like, live. And I mean it literally.
Yeah.
Like, I know cat lady was meant to be like an exaggeration. And it's not anymore.
It's not.
Look on Instagram, man. It's like, there are a bunch of feminist writers. I kid you not, cat accounts. It's like, you know.
People ask me why I won't start an account for my cat Figaro.
By the way, Americans in rural areas are more like, trigger warning, suicide. Americans in rural areas are more likely to die by suicide. Suicide rates for rural counties are consistently higher than urban counties. So Tim Pool isn't even fucking right about that. But he probably saw, like I said, a PragerU video where it just says feminism going up and then depression going up, and he was like, yeah. You just conceded you're wrong? What do you mean? Explain again, please, what you mean by that. Regardless, correlation does not imply causation. It does not mean causation. Like, there is no causal link between the two. But there isn't even a correlation because his information is incorrect. He's probably using totalities to say more people die of, or more people have depression in cities than rural areas. Of course, you agree with Tim that cities have a higher rate of depression, so the shadow's being an asshole? I think that the cities do have a higher, wait, hold on. We're talking about suicides, folks. That's a little bit different than cities versus rural areas. Yeah, cities are associated with higher rates of most mental health problems. That's what I was talking about. Where cities are associated with higher rates of most mental health problems compared to rural areas, and almost 40% higher risk of depression, over 20% more anxiety, and double the risk of schizophrenia. But I think that part of the reason why that is that suicide rates are higher in rural areas versus cities is because, is the same reason, and this is my speculation on it, but the same reason why I think that we know that there is more mental health problems inside of cities, because people are actually going to doctors. They're actually more likely to get the treatment. Yeah, you are way more likely to report depression if you have resources. Exactly. That is exactly the point. And when you report your depression, then it's going to reflect that in the data. But if you don't do that and you fucking commit suicide, then that's the only data point you have. So it looks like rural areas have less mental health issues when compared to cities, but rural areas probably have way more untreated mental health problems. And that's why you see suicide rates higher in rural areas versus cities. Okay? So I am 100% correct, chatter, and you are 100% incorrect, chatter. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk where I'm right and you're wrong. But because you're anonymous, it doesn't even matter, and I forgot what your name was, so I can't point at you and laugh at you for being wrong.
And well, this might have something to do with it.
You don't want to be a cat lady.
He can share my account.
It's like small animals are replacing the dopamine release you got from having babies.
Yes.
So now we've just
For rural areas, by the way, it's not exclusive to like toxic masculinity and your likeliness of receiving mental health treatment diminishing. It's literally because there aren't that many fucking resources. If you live in a rural town, it's a little bit harder to go and get the proper, especially affordable mental health treatment in comparison to a city where there are a lot more psychiatrists per capita than a fucking rural town. So it's not just about, because there's plenty of people who live in rural towns in my chat as well. I'm sure that they would love to get fucking mental health treatment, especially affordable mental health treatment. But the only psychiatrist that charges a lot of fucking money is like an hour away. From the article, when firearms were taken out of the equation, the researchers found the suicide rates in rural and urban areas were comparable. The increased suicide in rural areas is unique to America because of guns. That makes sense. Yeah. It's probably a combination of the two. I mean, look, I'm not gonna argue with you on this. Like, I agree that there are so many different factors. That's why I said I'm speculating that it's probably access to mental health treatment. Anyway, I'm gonna replay what fucking this idiot just said, even though he was lying about like the most simple, most basic shit.
It's not anymore.
It's not.
Look on Instagram, man. It's like there are a bunch of feminist writers. I kid you not, cat accounts. It's like, you know.
People ask me why I won't start an account for my cat Figaro, and well, this might.
Dude, okay, dude. This is such smooth brain garbage, dude. I'm sorry. Like, it's so fascinating watching Tim Pool's brain. It's so fascinating watching Tim Pool's brain because it's so obviously like he has such a one-track mindset. Like, come on, they got cat accounts. Like, women are doing cat accounts because they're lonely and they don't have babies. They should have babies instead.
Have something to do with it.
You don't want to be a cat lady.
It's like classic bar stool talk. You know what I mean? It's a classic bar stool Andy. He's just having like one of those like, this is shit that you talk about with your homies when you're like fucking 20 years old and a complete dipshit. Okay. Huh! Like, women are getting cat accounts because they don't have babies, so they're just substituting with cats. Like, that's just like homie talk. And you grow out of that and you learn that like this is idiotic, and reducing something to, like, if he was doing this as a joke or as a bit, I would laugh at it because it's funny, right? But if he's like trying to have a serious conversation, if I'm trying to be as honest as possible and I'm looking at what Tim Pool is talking about here, right? And trying to view it as though he is an honest actor trying to, in good faith, figure out what the problem is. If he's going to bring this shit up, I'm going to laugh at him because you're a child. Like, this is you're like a fucking, you're an idiot if this is genuinely and legitimately what you think is going on.
He can share my account.
It's like small animals are replacing the dopamine release you got from having babies.
Yes.
So now we've just replaced, eunuch animals instead of children.
Yep.
But it's mostly big cities.
Yeah.
You look at rural areas, they're still having bigger families.
Yep.
In fact, there was research done in the 2000s that conservatives were having more kids and liberals weren't.
Yeah.
Today, it's reflected in the Generation Z being slightly more conservative.
Yeah.
So if this trend remains true,
What? Dude, I just don't know. Like, I don't know anything he's saying. Where is he getting his stats from? Like, where is he getting his numbers from? I wish I knew what he looked at so I could understand like what I feel like he just says shit. Like, Gen Z is not fucking conservative. Gen Z is not more conservative. That's a meme. Okay? It's almost as idiotic as when liberals say, like, the next generation will save us. Like, no, the fuck they won't, idiot. Okay? They're going to be just as conservative and just as fucking liberal as the previous generation. If you think that they're going to be, if you think that there's going to be a difference and like Gen Z is going to be one way or the other, like you're out of your mind. Okay? There are going to be just as many libs, just as many, and a lot more socialists, as a matter of fact, and more radical politics on the right as well, probably, in Gen Z. That's just how it goes. But as far as like social progress goes, the base level in Gen Z, because they're born into a world where, you know, they're in the post civil rights world, they're in the third wave feminism world, they're in the fucking like women are in the workforce world. Because of that reality, they're in a post gay marriage world. They are going to be way more understanding and way more progressive socially. They're going to be way more progressive socially on all of those issues, despite the fact that they will be horrific towards trans people or whatever if they're Republican and right wing, and believe in way worse economic policies, like way more conservative economic policies than the previous generation. I'm Gen Z the day I turn 40. I'm transitioning to racist conservative, as is the law. %80 of European first-timers 18 years old voted left. Yeah, I mean, dude, it's like looking at fucking Bernie Sanders's base of voters and base of support, and then I don't know how you would turn around and be like, yeah, Gen Z, actually the next generation, some of which are voting now, they're actually fucking, contrary to literally everything we've seen about their voter patterns, their voting patterns, their opinions on socialism versus capitalism, I actually think that they are conservative. Why? Because I saw some fucking 4chan memes of 45-year-old pedophiles on the internet portraying themselves as 18-year-olds or 17-year-old Zoomers. So I believe that now. I think that they're all the Zoomers are fucking, all the Zoomers are right as fuck. Gen Z voters overwhelmingly back Biden over Trump, but they make up 4% of likely voters. They overwhelmingly backed Bernie Sanders over Biden as well. Anyway, let's go back to this fucking idiot talking about how no one wants to fuck him because he refuses to take his beanie off in bed and constantly talks about statistics that he made up on the spot. Like, actually, 87% of men who have beanies, who wear beanies in bed can have the best kind of erection and orgasms. So I'm not taking my beanie off.
I think the population will kind of go down. Mm-hmm. You're going to end up with a bunch of urban and suburban, you know, weirdo guys and women.
And a lot of it was the me culture, because that was like people wanted to extend their childhoods instead of, you know, growing up, getting a job. And it was just a generation, you know, millennial, late millennial, slightly early Gen Z. I guess it's like the 90s. The 90s babies kind of were them. Not to offend any 90s babies. You guys know what you are. But yeah, and so it was a generation like that kind of decided, well, I can't have babies if I want to extend my childhood. So then that came down to, I can't possibly have babies because of climate change. The American
people, right, which is nonsense.
No, of course.
But I do think it's crazy that I'm about to be 34 and I have no family. Because my dad had 2 kids by the time he was 27.
Yeah. And
I'm like, man, you know what the problem is though? It's definitely not me. Mm-hmm. I think it's everybody else.
Yeah. Any moment in your life where you have ever said something like this without any sort of reflection immediately after, if you've ever said something like this unironically, know that it is without a doubt 100% a certainty that you are the problem.
We're going to follow you right back.
I'm sorry to bring this to your face. I'm sorry to fucking throw this directly in your face, but you, my friend, are absolutely the problem. If this is what your mentality is, you are the problem. Sorry. That's just the motherfucking truth. Is it me? No, it must be everyone else. It's so good. It's such a good line. I love that, dude. It's so good.
So like when it comes to the women that I've been in relationships with,
Mm-hmm.
so one relationship I was in was a woman had a career.
Uh-huh.
And so we never saw each other. And she's like, I'm not giving up my career. I'm like, well, I'm certainly not.
Yeah.
And then some other women are like, I want to go adventure and do my thing. And I'm like, I'm all about freedom and liberty. So you do your thing, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And the only option I really have is to be like, no.
Yeah, I'm all about freedom and liberty so that I can fucking talk shit behind your back on my show about how you wouldn't want to give up your career for our relationship. And I'm obviously not going to give it up because I'm the man in this situation. Come on.
You must be the wife. And like, that's not me.
Yep, exactly.
So I haven't found.
So you got to find somebody who wants to, you know, start a family and be maybe a stay-at-home mother. You know, something.
But here's the challenge with that. My perspective, personality, what I find attractive, are all based on liberal urban sensibilities.
Yep.
And so most of the women in that space are going to be fiercely independent careerists and not necessarily compatible. So, you know, over the past several years, I've been, you know, increasingly successful. I have no problem and no concerns about starting a family whenever I need to. But most of the women that, you know, I have been with are like, can't career.
Yep.
And so there have been some who are like nearly 40. And I'm like,
Yeah, it's getting up there a little bit.
and it's no offense. I'm just
Yeah.
saying like,
40-year-old women are lovely. Okay.
well, it's the issue isn't them being 40. It's the difference in my age to their age and where I am in my life. And the same is true with younger women too. So I could certainly find like a younger woman who's like, I just want to, and I'm like, but we're just
And
not.
you know, I mean, there's biology that comes into play too there. If you're looking to start a family and, you know, she's already in her 40s, then there could be some trouble and that could be hard and that might not fit your what you want in your life.
Why was he not embarrassed to post this on the internet is the question I have. Like, why did he decide to post this on the timeline? Like, he had this conversation, reflected on it, and he was like, this is pretty good. I'm going to put this out there. And then the second part of this equation is like, why did 400,000 people watch this and like 18,000 people were like, yeah, that's me? It's kind of weird that like so many people literally are like, yeah, Tim Pool, you're right. It's the liberal sensibilities of careerist women that's the problem.
Oh, you're such a big man, Hassan.
Shout out to the best political streamer ever. Keep up the
65%
amazing
of
work,
18 to
Hassan.
35 are single. It's a cry for pussy. I just want to say thank you for all you do. Oh, thank you. Bro, you're 38 too. Go start a family. I'm fucking 29. It's kind of freaking me out that I all of my, like, both of my fucking last roommates, like, I moved out on my own 2 years ago. I moved out to live by myself 2 years ago. I was like, I'm getting older. I need to live by myself. I'm constantly yelling. I don't want to fucking put anyone up to that, like, task of being my roommate. And that's terrible. And then both of the motherfuckers that I live with in my 3-bedroom, they are now fathers. One of them also is married and is now having a baby. It's nuts. I don't know how the fuck this happened. Like, and I'm over here dealing with fucking 16-year-olds on the internet every day. It's wild to me. And like very far away from being in like a serious relationship or being a couple years into a serious relationship where I'm gonna like get married. Do I feel like it's a bad thing? No, it's completely up to me. You literally run a daycare. You have 13K children. That's true. I do have 13K children. But like, unlike Tim Pool, I know it's my decision. Like, it's perfectly. I have every opportunity to turn this shit off and, like, I don't know, go out on fucking dates and, like, meet wonderful women and date them and focus on that sort of stuff. You should do an age throuple. I've done it already.
Life.
Yep.
You know, and that's entirely true. That's biology. And I say this, I'm in my 30s. I'm getting there. So, you know, it's understandable, and it's okay.
I think we're doomed.
Having this convo with her is kind of sad too, because like she's a cat lady apparently who isn't in a relationship. So like you can see the hurt in her eyes, even under her Red Sox hat, that she's like also kind of sad. But she's a Republican, isn't she? I mean, assume she's like the redhead libertarian. Yeah, she's a libertarian. So why is she having such a hard time? I mean, she has conservative sensibilities, right? Doesn't that kind of destroy the argument immediately? Why don't they just fuck? Ugh.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast.
Okay, I need to watch more Timcast. I get why people watch it. It's very entertaining. It's really sad. I erased all dating apps 2 years ago because I couldn't get any quality interest. So much wasted time on that. Don't even bother, guys. It's all ego boosting for women. Oh, dude, this is straight incel shit, dude. Western women are so used to preferential treatment. Equal treatment like feels like discrimination. Dating apps for women equals shopping. Dating apps for men equals job interview. How do you confuse a feminist? Tell her she's not allowed to make you a sandwich. I mean, like, that's not... There is no way this guy is, like, fucking under the age of 35. Like, that is such a... Like, I don't want to believe that, like, a 16-year-old Zoomer wrote this as a meme. You know what I mean? It's so fucking... It's like old man brain rot, you know? No, that's not... 16 sounds a bit too old. I mean, this is all just all incels. What the fuck?
Sorry.
Most men will not approach a woman anymore. These women wonder why they're all still single at 40.
Thank you. You help.
All these anti-feminist Tim Pool takes reek of 2013 YouTube. Yeah, it's straight up.